but I'm going to stick with my pick going into the tournament. I like Auburn in the game. You're not really getting a whole lot of value. I think it might be a better option to wait and live bet this. And even if you live bet this, it could still be a 10, 15-point win for Florida. They weren't even at full strength, and they already beat Auburn this season, as we talked about earlier with Rocco, 90-81. I like Auburn, though, here with 2.5, man, and I like a little sprinkle on the money line. I think they're going to be live against Duke or Houston because their three leading scorers, including Broome, all seniors. I like this team. You go back to that original matchup against Florida. They didn't really get killed on the glass. In fact, it was 40-40 total rebounds. The issue was in that game, man, neither team actually shot the ball all that well. Florida was only 13 for 33 from downtown. Problem for Auburn, and this is what scares me a little bit, free throws, man. They were only 14 for 23. They only shot 60% from the charity stripe. But I'm going to take a shot with them as slight dogs, plus 2.5. You got the revenge angle, and I like this team because of the leadership. So I'll go Auburn plus 2.5 for my first bet.
All right, I'm going to go with that game. I'm going to work a little bit different bet. I think Florida's going to win. I got to stick to my guns. I said since the very beginning of the NCAA tournament, after the Sweet 16, that Florida and Duke inevitably were going to meet there in San Antonio for the right to be called national champions. So let's, again, triple down, quadruple down yet again on it. So give me the Florida money line on the same game parlay. And I'm going to take Auburn up to plus 10.5. And I'm going to stop right there. You put those hands together, believe it or not, at BetMGM, it's plus 177. So in other words, does Florida win by 1 to 10 points? And I'm getting like plus 177 odds on that? Hells to the yes, I'm in. I think this game is going to be, tightly contested. These are familiar foes. They know each other's idiosyncrasies. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses. Auburn is a team that is dripping wet from outside. Pettiford's guys got one of the quickest triggers in all of college basketball. They have a number of gunners along the perimeter that can keep this thing close, but so does Florida with Clayton and Martin. Cotta can step out, hit some threes at the top of the key. Houck is a guy that's done a little bit of everything, hit some threes, doing some of the cleanup work there on the glass and kissing it off or, putting it through the cylinder for two. I think Florida's size is a problem because I think Condon and Chenulu, they got bodies that can rotate to wear down Jediah Broome. Maybe Broome goes out and gets his usual like 20 and 15 in this game or 20 and 12. That could distinctly happen, but I think the guard play is just so outstanding of the Florida Gators that they're going to find a way to win this game. And they're playing better defensively as well. And give the numbers to bear it out. I mean, Auburn outside the top 65 in EFGD over last month. Florida right around a similar vicinity in that regard. But they're playing better when you look at the 2-point percentage defense and 3-point percentage defense. So, again, I think Gators going to win. I think Auburn's going to lose this game by single digits. If that happens, plus 177, I'm in, and I'm getting rich, man, because, again, I've got a lot of action on Florida reaching the national title game, assuming the other end pulls their side of the rope and gets in, and I'll explain that here in a minute. But give me another one. What else you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the same game. I've been looking at some props. Haven't really fired off on a whole lot yet, but I did play the total, and I was surprised to see in like the last hour this has come down a little bit to 160.5. I bet the under 161.5 in Florida Auburn, which again is really scary. Maybe you look at like a first half under here at 76.5. I just feel like, especially in the first half, might be a little bit of a feel out process, like I always say, especially when we get to the Final Four. There's going to be some nerves there as well, and two teams that know each other pretty well, even though they've only seen each other once. Two SEC opponents with a ton of common opponents. And I think that this game is going to be a little bit lower scoring, at least to start. So I like the first half under at 76.5, but I love that full game under at 161.5, even at 160.5. I think this should be more 157.5 to 158.5. That said, though, these have been two over teams, so I could be dead wrong here, but I like the under in the first game of the night.
Yeah, I have a gut feeling it's going to hit the under as well. Again, familiar foes, right? They can play to the strengths. They can play to the weaknesses. I think it's going to be a little bit slower tempo game. It has to be. If Auburn gets into a track meet, that's advantage Florida, right? Florida loves living in transition. So, I think you're 100% right. I think it's going to be somewhere in the low to mid 150s when it's all said and done. All right, let's go to the other side of the bracket. Another same game parlay. And again, cue the Jimmy Eat world. I'm going to live in the middle. Give me Duke on the money line. And I would take Houston up to plus 12.5. Now, it's not as sexy of a juice that we have with Florida and Auburn, but that gets you, significant plus money at plus 110 when built there at BetMGM. I don't think Duke is going to blow out Houston by any stretch of the imagination. I think this game is going to be likely within single figures, but I'm buying myself a couple extra points in case it just gets outside, do the free throws hit at the end. Houston will foul like crazy with under 90 seconds to go if Duke has the lead. You can bank on that. And this game is going to be slower tempo. Duke can play at a variety of paces. They're 220 in just a tempo over last month. And Duke has been really excellent everywhere. They have no weaknesses. Top 30 EFG offense, top 30 EFG defense. If they have any one area where they're a little bit sketchy, it's on three-point percentage D. They're 114 the last 30 days in that category with Cryer and Sharp. That might be the reason why Houston hangs tough in this game, along with their defense and style of play. So low possessions. I think Duke is going to, blitz somebody, searching the imagination. SGP, Blue Devils money line. Cougars stay within 12, plus 12.5, plus 110 built there at BetMGM. Give me another.
Yeah, I like Houston, man, especially now that it's at 5.5. I think Duke wins the game, but I think they win the game by 3 to 5 points. I think this is a one-possession game. I know Houston's going to be able to muck things up. We know how tough they are defensively. And just kind of like I like Auburn a little bit against Duke, I like it because of the experience. This Duke team on paper is the most talented team, right? Like, if they roll everybody just like UConn did back-to-back years, it won't really surprise me with Flagg and Knippel and those guys. But what I like about Houston is Kelvin Sampson, tough team. They guard you for 40 minutes, and the age of these guys, right? Juwan Roberts is 23 years old. Francis is 22 years old, right? Like, everybody on that team is over 20 years old, and they have a ton of experience. Also, they have the longest win streak, or they're tied there, 17 victories in a row. That's the nation's longest current win streak. Yeah, they have one loss going back to November. And they've only lost once in regulation. So if they do lose, it's going to be close, maybe even in overtime. So I'll take the 5.5 with Houston, man.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to a similar well I drank from earlier in the show. I took Alex Condon in a same-game parlay, 6 or more rebounds with 2 or more assists from Condon as well, and that was plus 106. I'm a coward. I should just bet the rebounds outright. Screw it, I'm going to do it right now. Give me the over on 7.5 rebounds, and you get that now. It was a plus 105 earlier today. It's now plus 110 at BetMGM. I think you can snag a snowman on the glass in this game. Now, he has not gotten 8 rebounds in any single NCAA tournament game so far, but you got to maximize the matchup. I have said this repeatedly for the last 4 to 6 weeks. The area of weakness for Auburn is on defensive glass. Even with Janiah Broome, he is their most reputable rebounder they have. They have some length and athleticism in other positions. Baker Mazarian gets some rebounds on occasion with his long, lanky frame. But overall, they're really kind of a subpar rebounding team. And the advanced analytics bear that out. They're number 203 in defensive rebounding percentage over the last 10 games. And they go back to that first matchup. Condon had 10 boards in that game. Can he match that in the rematch? I think it's entirely on the table. All I need is 8, and I cash in a plus 110. I am down and making some cash with Alex Condon over 7.5 rebounds against those Auburn Tigers. Give me another, mi amigo. What do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going back to my roots for the Final Four, man. Dogs and unders, and that has not been the way to go in this tournament or last year's tournament, so good chance I do get crushed, but at least we'll get some good matchups, hopefully, and it'll be fun. I'll go under 136.5 in Duke Houston. This game is almost like the one that you don't want to overthink, right? And you just bet the under, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to be different here. I'll go over. But I can't get the Alabama game right now out of my head, man. I thought Alabama was going to be able to keep that game at least a little bit closer, the way that they shot the rock the game before. But, I mean, Duke, they're just so tough defensively, man. Probably their best defensive team, at least one of them in program history, I would say, for John Shire,
no
man.
doubt.
Alabama made 25 three-pointers in the Sweet 16. That entire game, they were taking awkward, off-balance shots. They got some decent looks, but not many. And also, Alabama likes to play at one of the fastest paces in the country, and Duke didn't allow that. They dictated the tempo. So with a team like Houston that's going to want to slow things up, with Duke doing what they want, I think this is going to be a lower-scoring game, maybe played in the low 60s, a close game. Maybe 63-61 Duke, hopefully, that I cash both tickets, but I'll go under 136.5 Duke Houston.
You know Houston's going to dictate tempo.
Right.
They do it every single game.
Every single game, no matter who they play.
Every single game. It doesn't matter. And again, Duke is one of those teams that can play at a variety of paces. They have proven that repeatedly all season. You want to run? They'll run. You want to grind out a half court? They will play the slow jam, Key Sweat style and crank that on high on the boombox. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I honestly thought this number is going to open at like 132.5, 133.5. So the fact you're getting 136.5, I think that's a gift. And a lot of people, I saw the splits that were, Ewing sent us today via email from BetMGM. Ton of money has already rolled in on the over.
Yeah.
And a lot of action on the over from the public and their spread tickets as well. So I'm going to live and land down under. I'm going to fade the popular narrative there. And I think that one is going to live in the low 60s in the end. Speaking of Duke, one of the reasons why it's going to live in the low 60s, they have the Supreme Rim Protector, probably the best, the du jour in that area in college basketball is Common Malawach. I'll take the over on 7.5 rebounds on him at a plus 110 juice. There could be a lot of missed shots in this game, and Malawach at 7'2" is going to do a lot of work on the glass. I think Juwan Roberts is going to be in trouble. He might get in foul trouble this game. As long as Malawach avoids the whistle, he should do some serious work down low. Houston, number 137 in defensive rebounding percentage last month. They haven't been unstoppable on the glass. And look at Malawach, too. I'll even throw a little bonus time. I kind of like the over 8.5 points for him as well. He's gone over that in 3 of his last 4. I think a lot of these second chance opportunities are going to land in his big paws. He's going to go back up immediately and kiss it off the glass and get to at least 10 points in the game. So I like the over 7.5 boards at plus money and the over 8.5 points as well at a minus 110.